All right, folks. There were a couple of requests or inquiries about setting up Roll20, and while I'm by no means an expert, I have been GMing, or DMing, and storytelling, marshaling on Roll20 for quite a few years now. So I am qualified enough to at least help give you the basics and get you started with Roll20. What I also want to do with this video is show you Token Tool 2.1. Which is a nice tool, nice free tool that you can use, install on your system, and create free tokens that you can easily use on Roll20. I'll be setting up the game, then I'm going to create a token with Token Tool, then I'm going to show you how to import that token into the game so you can use it with your games. All right, so here we go. This is the Roll20 website. This is what you see when you log in. When you first click sign in, obviously you guys are new to it, so you'll be clicking sign up. I'm a long-time user, so I'll sign in. You're going to come to a page similar to this, but yours is obviously going to be empty because it's the first time you logged in. As a free user, you don't need to be pro to do what I'm doing. I'm not going to go into dynamic lighting or anything. I'm just going to do the basics of setting up a game, which you can do with the free account. You don't need to have a pro membership or a pro subscription to do any of that. So let's go and get started. We're going to create a new game here. I'm actually going to set up the game, the one shot that I'm going to be running next Friday. So I'm going to give it a name. I like to give it tags. I don't know that anyone actually uses the tag for anything. And then you're going to want to pick a character sheet. What this will actually do is when you pick the character sheet, it's going to set up a rule set in the back end that your Roll20 tabletop will actually run on. So I'm going to pick the Savage Worlds Deluxe Edition, which is the that's the one prior to the most recent release, but it's the one that we've been playing with in Deadlands for the last few years. So that's the rule set that all of my players know. So that's the one I'm going to pick. Like I said, when I pick this and tell it to go, it'll actually load this rule set into the back end. All right, so roll down. These are all modules I bought. So if you do have to buy a module, you would actually add that here. If you had bought a module, I'm not doing that. I'm running a game that I'm working up myself, so I'm not worried about that right now. And you click I'm ready, create game. All right, so we're actually almost there to where the game's created. Just a couple things I like to do. Actually, I didn't mean to click that. I had pre-prepped an image that I wanted to use in the background here. Oh, and I messed it up. There we go. Well, that wouldn't be a good video if there weren't a few mistakes. There we go. All right, we got a cool background there. All right, if you have any add-ons, you would go ahead and click them here and add them. As you see, these are all Dungeons & Dragons and Pathfinder and stuff like that, so none of these are really applicable, so I'm not worried about that. But if you had an add-on you wanted to use, you would click it here, hit Add to Game, and then those resources would be available in your game. I do want to highlight the big difference. This is not where you load the modules. The modules are back in that first place when you first create the table. I have not found a way to load a module after the fact. The only thing you can add are these portions of the larger modules and whatnot. As you can see, like this Tales of the Yawning Portal against the Giants was this particular one is at the add-on section. Next thing you're going to want to do is go to your game settings. This is completely optional. I always like to set the background so your players will see that when they first logged in. You got a Starry one, you got this cool Mystic Field one, and you got this Matrix one here. I am going to allow the players to import the characters if they happen to have them in their own vaults. And then I want to click on Game Default Settings. And you're like, I know what you're thinking right now. You're looking at this like, holy crap, what is all this crap? This is the stuff I needed to understand, Mike. And you just threw it in my face, and now I'm suffering, and I'm having a coronavirus-induced seizure over here. Don't worry about any of this. For my Roll20 game, so all of this stuff is going to be adjusted on the fly as you're setting up the individual maps and whatnot. I am running a Savage Worlds game, so I actually set this to D&D 5e compatible, which means 5 foot per square. And I will show you that once we get to the tabletop. I'm not going to worry about any of this right now. Not going to worry about any of this right now, but I do want to set these right here. This will allow your players to see all of these things on the tokens if they're there. And I will explain that when I get to the tokens a little bit more. And then this is who is allowed to actually see the numbers. So I want these to be visible to everyone. All right. What that'll do, the difference is when you have a token, so we're playing Savage Worlds, so you can take 3 wounds in Savage Worlds. So one of these bars will have 3 wounds on it. If I didn't have it set to visible to everyone, the players could see the bar and they could see it filling up or going down with color as the wounds are taken, but they couldn't actually see the numerical values. I want all of that to actually be visible to everyone, so I set text overlay to visible to everyone so they can see the numerical values, so they don't have to guess what the numbers are. Sometimes it's fun to let them guess. I do that a bit in the D&D game that I'm running right now, but sometimes you just want to let them know that, hey, this critter has so many hit points left. All right, not going to worry about light right now. Don't need to worry about any of this. There is no compendium for Savage Worlds games, so that's not a big deal. But if you were running a game like, say you're setting up a D&D 5th edition, you would go to Access Compendium and set it for D&D 5th edition. That'll create an extra little tab inside your tabletop where you can open up the core rules from the game and anything that's offered with the core rule set as part of, I can't remember if it's the OpenGL or open source, whatever they're actually calling it now for 5th edition. Same thing for like Pathfinder 2nd edition and 1st edition. Whatever their core free rule set is, you can actually load it into your compendium right there. If you have purchased additional modules, you can actually get more put into the compendium for the rest of the group. But it is not required. For these, there is a base selection of tools that are there, and they're actually quite helpful while you're playing the game. All right, this is once again showing which character sheet you're going to be using. As you can see here, there's different versions of the character sheet. When we get to the character sheet, I'll show you how to set it. For like Dungeons & Dragons, you're just going to get one. This is Savage Worlds, which is a universal system that works for multiple types of games, so they give you different options on the character sheet. Like this is a Lankmar one, this one's for Deadlands, which is the game I'm running, Beast and Barbarians, and then there's a generic Savage Worlds one as well. And you hit Save Changes, and it'll take you back to here, and then you click on Return. All right, and now we're ready to get started and actually get into the tabletop and do some setup. So this is no, I do not want you to use my microphone. And actually, that is the first thing I'm going to show you. I am not a fan of Roll20's built-in voice. It is, in my experience, and others may have better experience, in my experience, it is pretty awful. So the first thing I usually do is I come over here to the gear in the top right, go to My Settings, and as the Game Master, you're actually setting this for everyone who joins you on your table. Go to the chat tech here. I don't want any of their audio or anything, so I'm going to flip this to none, and you're going to see the Roll20 interface actually reload itself as it unloads those tools. All right. So I always advise everyone to do that first. Now, once you've done it, that's a one and done. You never have to go back and touch that again unless you choose to turn it on. And that is completely up to you. Like I said, my experience has not been great with those tools. So let me give you a brief tour of what you're actually looking at here. Obviously, you got a background here with, no terrain or anything. It's not very pretty. But you have your various tools, easy, quick access tools here on the left. So you have one for the mouse. Like most programs, these are actually pretty easy to understand. You got a pan view. You can grab it, pan it around. Or you have a normal select move. You select tokens and whatnot, but you can still use your mouse wheel to scroll up and down, left and right. You can also hold Alt and zoom in and out. Or you can grab the bar here and zoom in and out. Or, they like to give you lots of options. There's a magnifying glass here, and you can set your zoom level for however you want it. Now, keep in mind, the zoom level you're setting here is for you, not for the players. So they can control their own zoom levels depending on how much they want to focus in on what's going on, or if they want to keep a high level view. I tend to go back and forth a little bit. You see that if you watch any of the videos I posted from the games we run. All right, on the toolbar, the second is this is where you control your layers. Now I've got an extra one here that you're not going to see if you're using a free account. That is the dynamic lighting layer. So if you just signed in with a free account, there won't be any dynamic lighting, but that's okay. There are built-in fog of war tools that you can use that I think are actually quite handy. Dynamic lighting just makes things a little bit easier, but it is a little bit maybe a medium level task to set up. So I'm actually not going to go into dynamic lighting in this video. So your map layer, this is where you actually set your map in the background. When something's in the map layer and you're playing the game, you can't interact with it unless you go back to the map layer. The object layer is where everything that's in play in the game is going on. So this is where your PC tokens, this is where your monster tokens. This is where anything you want to move around on the fly is probably going to sit in this layer. And then the third layer is the GM info overlay. That is the layer that only you as the GM can see. Makes sense, right? And you're going to see it. It's going to be a little bit transparent to the group. So let's go ahead and put some things on the board. First, I want to set up a grassy section here. So I got a grassy ridge here from another game I was running. So I'm going to throw this up. Let's zoom out a little bit. All right. Throw this up here. And look, there we go. We now have a map. Now we got some extra here and whatnot. That's okay. I'm going to show you how to clear some of that out. I'll leave a little space so I can show you how to do that here in a second. Pull this down, leave a little bit there so I can show you that. And now I have a map in the background. So now we've got some place for us to play. Let's go back to the object layer. And let's see if I have a cowboy loaded up in here. Or any kind of cowboy. Or any kind of object that would... So when you do a search here, let me back up just a little bit. All right, so on the right-hand side in the top, you have your chat. So it's pretty standard chat. So as you can see here, standard chat. You can whisper to players. You type /W and start typing the name. There's no players in this game yet because I just created it. I haven't invited them. If you type their name or their character's name, you'll see them pop up in a short little list here, and then you click the one you want, and then you can whisper directly to them. Fairly simple chat features as far as that goes. The second tab up here on the right is the art library. Now, if you've purchased any art, that will show up in here in your purchases. If you have access to any premium assets, that'll show up here. And if you've uploaded anything to your library, that'll show up here as well. And then what it also, Roll20 also does is it goes out, and I'm not sure where it's looking at on the web. I typed cowboy and I got some centurions. That's a little weird, but what the heck, let's throw a centurion out there. Let's grab a ghost too. Okay, I've got some ghosts from my game. All right, so this centurion and this ghost are about to throw down. Oh, I hate when that happens. Roll20 is not perfect. Sometimes grabbing onto there we go. Can be a little troublesome. Definitely not a perfect program, but it gets the job done for the most part. All right, so we've got a centurion here, we've got a ghost here. These are tokens. You'll see they are in the objects and tokens layer. And these are what the players can move about. So they can grab them with their mouse if they have control of them. You as the GM are able to move anything at all. Or, as I learned recently, one of my players taught me, I didn't realize this, you can use your number or your arrow keys on your keyboard and move around your token, which is actually pretty darn handy. All right, next to the art library, you're going to have the journal. And right now you'll see this journal is empty. I'm going to create a folder, and it's called, this is a Deadlands game, so this is the posse. I said the posse. All right, I'm going to create a character, and this one is going to be Sheriff Bob. All right, I'm creating it, so I want my players to see it. So all players, it's going to be in their journals, and I want my players to be able to control this character. He's a wild card that's going to round around with them, so I'm going to set it so all players can edit him. Now you see the name here. When I hit save here, you're going to see a little dot show up next to him, which means that he is in their journal, and the players can actually see that. So you can actually create stuff and load it into this section and not set it so the players can see it. So you can preload like handouts and other things like that. I'll show you handouts in just a second. And then you can build them in here and then put them into your folders and have them ready for when the time comes. So I'm going to create another folder for wildcards and another folder for minions. Let's rearrange these a little bit so they make a little more sense. There we go. All right. So here's a character sheet, but I'm going to set that right there because I want to show you one more thing before we get to that. I want to show you handouts. All right, so you can set up a handout here. Now, a handout can be as simple as create a handout, give it a name, and put your notes here that you want to give to your players, and then you can hit save. And then you have a perfectly serviceable handout that you can give to the players. And when you're playing, you see the show to players button. So like, say you get to that point in the story, you're ready to show the handout to the players. You just click the mysterious note, you hit show to players, and it'll say, do you want to actually show it to everyone? Blah, blah, blah. It's not currently shared, blah, blah, blah. You hit that, and it opens it up, automatically shares it to everyone. Click this little button. Actually, that's not the button. Ignore that button. All right, so now the players are looking at it. You can get a little fancier with these. You can actually set it so the players can edit it. You can put some tags on it so you can search for it in your search field later. As I get farther along in campaigns, I actually find that the tags are pretty useful. So I do throw tags on pretty early on so that I can search and find things much faster later on when I've got all sorts of NPCs and monsters and notes and all sorts of other stuff built in here. You can also add an image here. Like say this is a rusty gun that you found. You could go find a picture of a rusty gun and upload it here. So it'll actually show it here. So it'll put it up here right above your text when you have it. And then it'll also show the picture right there. So actually, let's do this. So one little tip for you. You can actually double click up here and minimize these for management of your space. But for this rusty gun, we're actually going to take the Centurion. Oh, I can't do that, but I can do it this way. Hey, there's High Show from our first game. So I dragged him in. So this is High Show. Yay, Billy. This is the spirit of High Show. He's all gray. He's a ghost. All right. Oh, I want to say he is the spirit of High Show. Or as those who have not played in our game recognize, this is obviously Jackie Chan from the movie whose name I can't remember right now, but that's okay. All right. So you see now we have a note, a handout for High Show. Show to the players. Oh, that's the button I was looking for before. You can maximize it. Now this is just for you. The players will have the same option as well. They can click on it and zoom in on the image and look at it. All right, so that's the basics of the journal tab. There's a jukebox built in. This is probably in the more medium. You can set up a playlist. Build a playlist for Deadlands. Sorry, I'm anal retentive about capitalizing. And I probably just did that. There we go. Man, it's been a long week. All right, so I got a Deadlands playlist. All right, and you can add to game. You can move all this stuff around by grabbing little bars, put things in, set it to play the whole playlist, play individual ones. Somehow I accidentally grabbed, there we go. And I only do a little bit of audio with this because we do record our sessions, and sometimes not everyone has a headset. So sometimes you're playing audio here, it comes back through. There's a collection here. So if you get into building macros, which is not a beginner task at all, this is where you build your macros. If you're using a deck of cards for whatever reason, or you have like tokens like hero points or bennies like you would in Savage Worlds. So later on I'm going to load up some bennies here. But they already have a built-in generic set of playing cards that you can throw up onto the table. The deck is unshuffled when you get it. So you shuffle the deck, and then you can pull the playing cards out and give them out to your players. In the Savage World settings, these playing cards are also used for initiative, and I'll show you that when we get to that point. So you can use playing cards with it, and then you go to your gear settings tab. I am the Marshal, and I'll change the name down here after you hit save name. You see the Marshal has changed. You control the master music level. There's some other options here. As a beginner, you don't really need to play with these too much. I usually don't use the 3D dice. This is individual to the player. Some of the players do like the 3D dice. They think you actually see them roll across the tabletop while you're playing, and that's pretty cool. If you want to control the different behaviors of your mouse as you're moving across the tabletop, you do that here. The GM can customize the color bars, deck size. See, I can make the deck bigger if I want to, or smaller. All right. One thing I always see here, I always suggest to my players, is the player avatar size. So as you see, I've got my avatar over my name here, and that is helpful. That is cool. You can see that there. But sometimes that just takes up a lot of space that you don't want it to take up. So you can click on regular. You can either you can make it bigger if you really do want it bigger. You make it smaller, or you can actually set it to name only. So it's just your name. As additional players join, you'll see them listed across the bottom. And you'll see the color that's actually associated with them. And I'll get back to that in just a second. All right, and that's all of your settings on the right-hand side. Let's go ahead and hit this one before I go ahead and finish off this bar here. This is the color for this player, and you can just click on it and set a new color if you want to. What this does is a couple things. So as you interact with the board, you see I'm picking the location just by clicking and holding down my mouse. So if I want my players to say, hey, you're coming up on this ghost, and you see what looks like a suspicious trap right there, I can ping the tabletop and point something out to the players, and they would know. They'll get a ping on their side at the exact same location. And then, of course, this color matches whatever there is, as well as your measuring tools when we get to that. So going back up here, and I realize that's completely disjointed because I did half this, then flipped over and came back, and I do apologize for that. So underneath the zoom, which I already explained, there is a really cool measuring tool. The player, you could count out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's 6 squares. If every square is 5 feet, he's 30 feet away from me, and that's fine. If you're comfortable doing that, you can do that. Or you can click on the little measuring tool and see exactly how far away each square is from you. So you don't even have to think about it. So, yep, that ghost is 30 feet away. That warrior there, he can throw a spear, a javelin. He can definitely move up to him. He's probably got like 25 or 30 feet of movement. Either way, he'll get there, and then he can do a melee attack if he wants. But the player doesn't even have to worry about it. They can make their move. Now, you have a couple options here. So the default, as you saw, was snap to center. So the center of the square. So this is just measuring the squares. Now, if you're curious about a point, you can snap to a corner and say, okay, we dropped a fireball right here. How far around is that fire? Actually, it's 20 feet for a fireball. How far around is that fireball going to go? Or no snapping, and it's just whatever point you click, you can see what it is. Or the option I use most often is if you hold Alt on your keyboard, you get the same effect. You can grab from anywhere and make a quick measurement. All right, the next one down the toolbar is your little eyeball. That is for controlling your fog of war, which I will set up in just a second. So I'll be coming back to this one to show you. The next one down is actually your initiative tracker. So when you start combat, not every game has combat, but most of them do. You're going to get to a fight. So you would click on your tokens who are in the fight. Oh, she doesn't have a name. So let's give her a name. She is a ghost. To access that, I just double clicked on the token. That takes you back to the same editing tool. If you remember the rules we set up in the beginning, you'll see them here. You know, the bar colors, this and that. You go to the advanced, you see all those other crazy settings, and you're like, oh man, Mike, you said I wouldn't have to know them. You don't need to know these. If you're not even messing with Fog of War, all you really need to do is set up this kind of stuff. Like, he's got 15 hit points out of 15 hit points. And ta-da, he has a health bar that shows up. And the ghost has 10 hit points. 10 hit points. All right. This even gets even easier if you have a character sheet set up, because when you go in here, you're going to get these pull down options, and you can say, hey, I want to tie this to my wounds or my hit points, and it'll go ahead and put the values in for you, pulling them straight off the character sheet from the character sheet section. And that's pretty neat. Saves you a little bit of time. All right. Did we name it? Yeah, we named him. So add a warrior. All right. This is a Savage Worlds game, so it actually is pretty easy. So what could happen is, you could roll your initiative like you do old school, and say, okay, he got a 10, blah, blah, blah. But we're playing Savage Worlds. Savage Worlds uses the initiative cards. So the game master can actually come in here and say, you know what, deal initiative by card and suit. And of course it doesn't work. Oh, yeah, there we go. I was clicking in the wrong place. User error. All right. Oh, yeah, I was hitting the sorting button. My bad. All right, so yeah, you can deal to the initiative. So everyone got their initiative card, and then I sorted by card suit. So it sorted them for me, and it tells me that the ghost gets to go first. Not by much, though, because those cards are pretty darn close. And the ghost comes at the warrior, and mayhem ensues. All right, so so the ghost has his turn. He attacks the warrior, but the warrior definitely dodges out of the way. So you just click next, and the warrior comes up. So you'll have however many participants are in the group, and they're showing up here. And like say the ghost gets taken out by the warrior, boom, you delete the token, it automatically comes off of the initiative tracker. Nice and easy. Close that down. All right, there is a cool dice tool for quick use. You notice I type /roll /R for roll 1d20 over here. They added this is a somewhat newer feature, newer as in maybe the last year and a half or so. But we've been playing so long that I'm used to typing it out. But I could have just come in here and I clicked the 2, so I rolled 2 d20s, or I can just click the d20, roll 1 d20, roll 4 d4s, whatever you want. And there's a little bit of help section in here with some helpful info. All right. So the last thing I need to show you on this screen here is the tabletop management. So you've got this map here. This is a nice map. This one's ready to go, ready to play. But you want to set up your next maps and your next maps. And what if they go to a town? And what if they jump on, find a river? You've got to set up other maps for the upcoming encounters. So what you do is there's a little button up here called the page toolbar. It'll show you, you can set up different additional tabletops, or pages as it's called. It's all one tabletop. And you can click on it and go set up a different map here. So we wanted a river. So let's find a map with a river. There you go. Someone provided one on the web. It's okay. That's all right. It suits our purposes. That's all that matters. And now we have the one with the river. We want to make this. That's a little tiny river. We need a big river. We need a happy little river. It's my Bob Ross moment for the video. All right. Yeah, that's not a great map, but you get the gist of what we're trying to do here. All right. So now you see, you click on it, and you got your river here. All right, and you got your mountain forest here over on this one. All right. And now, as I click through them and go through the maps, this is just moving me, the GM, between them. The reason for this is so you can actually move ahead and grab things and set things up and do things while your players are still looking at the one map. The ribbon with, obviously with players marked here, shows you which one the players are looking at. So if I want the players to go to the second map, I'd actually move them over here and then click in there. They'll see the same shifting effect, and then they'll see the new map, and they'll be ready to go. For this, I want to move the players back over here, because now, before I showed you, I left some space off, and you're like, oh man, this map is perfect. I got this extra space over here that I don't really want. There's an extra square on the right, square, not spare, square on the right, extra square on the bottom. You can make adjustments to the page by clicking the little gear and making them smaller, and now it fits your map perfect. If you want to, so what I've also seen some people do, like 26 by 26, and then you go to the map player, move it down because they want a bit of a border. So you can go ahead and add a black background. That looks cool too. And then that helps the players know that as they're moving around, even if there's a fog of war, if they see that black line, they definitely know they're on the edge of the map. And speaking of fog of war, you can play around with your size settings and whatnot here. This is where you set up your fog of war. I don't remember with the free account if you get the advanced fog of war, but I do know you definitely won't see the dynamic lighting. So for this, we want to turn on fog of war. And then the one last thing I want to show you before I activate the fog of war is if you do set up a musical playlist, you can actually set it here to play the music on load. So as soon as you switch the players to that, it'll go ahead and start playing the music that you told it to play for them. A nice little neat feature. Alright, so you'll see the fog of war is now up. You notice everything's darker. It's hard to see the fog of war. So Mike, how do I know the fog of war is up? Well, go to your fog of war settings, coming back to here, and you have reveal areas. That is a square reveal. You have a polygon reveal, and then you can rehide areas, or if you realize you're completely messed up, you can reset the fog. So obviously the warrior can see I've gone to the reveal areas. He can see an area around him. So, oh, you see how it's lighter now? Ta-da! It's magic. And now the players on their side will actually only see this. How do I know that? Because I can show you. I'm going to click on my little gear, go to the top, and hit rejoin as a player. And look, this is what the players see. So you can actually set it up, and so you see the players have fewer options. They don't have all the GM tools, and that's okay. This is actually what the players see. And now I'm going to go back as GM. All right. Our other options are polygonal reveal. Ba-doo, 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 ba-doo. All right. And then you right click to close it out and reveal that area. You realize you've shown too much, you can do a hide area, get rid of that. Or if you realize you completely mess up, like I said, you can reset fog and rehide the entire area. So now you're back to where you were. Let's go ahead and let the warrior see at least that much. So those are your basic, that is your basic setup for Roll20. So this gives you access to everything you need to do. Oh, I'm sorry. I lied. We need to create a character. We got Sheriff Bob here. All right, so this is the character sheet. All right, so it always opens up to the bio info sheet first. If you hit edit, you go ahead and create a bio for your character. You as the GM can put notes on anything that's in the journal tab. So if you want to make notes about the awful doom that awaits your players or that particular character, this character is gonna die. You put that here, and but what they'll see is this character will live forever. Very good. All right. My players are never going to trust me again after seeing that. Anyway, so you can ignore this tab, just so you know. So this is the tab you're going to want to use, is the character sheet. All right. and you'll see a standard Savage World character sheet here. So if you're setting up a D&D game, you'll get the cool D&D style one. You'll get a Pathfinder one if you're doing Pathfinder. What this is for is when you get into macros and other special things later on, which only a few of us really dabble in because you don't really need to know how to do it. These are the attributes on the back end that help make the character sheet and the automation for the game work. As a new player and new GM, please do not worry about these at all. I would just leave them alone. All right, so for this sheet, as I mentioned before, this one is actually for multiple types of games. So there should be an option in here. Yes, there it goes. So visual, it's basic Savage Worlds. I'm playing Deadlands though, so I want to flip this over to Deadlands. There you go. Now I have a Deadlands style character sheet, and it's also set the Deadlands rules, which, you know, there's little tiny differences between the settings, but you can see the character here now. All right, so at this point, I would go through and, you know, create everything for the character. So he's got a D6 agility, he's got a D10 spirit. If you know Savage Rules, you know how all this works pretty much. All right, I've set my abilities and all that other stuff. And then once I filled in my character sheet, I'm pretty much ready to go. But there's one last thing you want to do, and that's creating a token. So what I'm going to do now is take you over to Token Tool, which is a great tool for creating the tokens for these characters. Like I said, you can find things in here, and then you can attach these to the character sheets. You know, kind of like similar to how I did here. You know, you can drag things over from the art gallery if you want. You know, I seem to remember there was no cowboy art before. I should have remembered that. All right, there's an awful looking sheriff. I can set the sheriff there, save it, and then when I drag out from the character sheet, they'll just put Sheriff Bob right into the mix. But that is a horrible token because that's a ranger, not the sheriff that I want. All right, so I'm going to go show you token tools. All right. So if you do, I'm going to provide the link. So the link will be below. It should also be flashing across the screen right now, or just up on the screen. If you do a search, you know, you'll find RP tools. Look for Token Tool 2.0. That'll bring you to this page where you can download and install. It's a very easy executable to install. It's actually a piece of cake. And what it'll do is you'll load up this program. This is your Token Tool program. I'm going to show you how easy it is to use this and to create tokens. So I've already found a piece of art here for Sheriff Bob. This is Sheriff Bob. He is one badass dude. All right, we're going to turn him into a token because I could put this in like this into the tabletop. It's not square. It'll squish it down to fit the square. You can adjust it a little bit, but it'll never quite look right. So we really want to put this in a nice, easy to use token, something that stands out on the tabletop and makes it easy to play with. All right. So I've got my tool here. I just grab the image, drop it in. Now Sheriff is in the tool. I can move it around, and I could just grab it like this. At this point, I could almost be done. But that's kind of not really, you know, the right look for the token. All right. So I click my. It's going to be Sheriff Bob. Set my. There's a lot of fancy options. You really don't need to mess with them if you don't want to. All right, portrait options. You can set your opacity on the image and whatnot. I want to leave it as it is. There's a blur option if you want it. And there's a glow option. You know, look, there's daylight. That's a little bit darker. Actually, that looks good right there. All right, click down and check my overlay. All right, so this is the generic gear. I do want a round one. So I'm going to look for a round one, and I think I want a smooth one. All right, there's all sorts of different options. There's actually a lot of really, really cool stuff in here. Decorated, like look at these. Man, I cannot wait to show these off to you guys, which I'm doing right now in the video, but I'm going to be setting these up for the D&D campaign because these look awesome. You can have druid characters or stuff. I mean, I cannot wait. That's going to be fun. Happy little tokens. Okay, but back to this guy. All right, I don't want runes. I want smooth. All right, I want something that kind of fits the Deadlands theme. or at least wouldn't be too weird. Oh, that's kind of cool. All right, yeah, I got a woodsy feel. We'll see. I may change it. All right, but I get the. You see, I'm using the mouse button or the rolling button to zoom around, move it around, get it how I want it. And once I'm happy with it, you see the preview of what the token look like. You literally just grab the token and pull it out. Hey, there you have your token. Nice and easy. All right. Now you want to make another token. You literally just grab your next image. I know they have the options here to do it, but you don't need to do that. You grab your next image, you drop it in. So whether it's your dwarf or whatnot, adjust that one. This one's going to be a different character, although I'm using the same image. Grab that one, and that one pops out. Okay, now you got this other token. It really is that easy. All right, so now let me show you how to use that with the Roll20. All right, so let's minimize this just a little bit, make it easy use. Click Edit, just grab my token, drop it in. It gets uploaded. All right, I now have a token. See, Sheriff Bob has a nice proper token. All right, so now what I want to do to this is, remember I mentioned the pull downs before? I could actually go in and look for the right variable if I want to, but you don't have to get that complicated. This is Savage Worlds. He has 3 wounds. All right, so I throw them up there. And what you can also do is, if you want, say he has like a 6 toughness or 6 defense score or whatnot, or like a 16 AC in D&D, you can put that right there without putting anything right, and it'll do something neat. Here, I'll show you. Hit save. All right. So you see the bar popped up because he has 3 wounds. So if he takes 3 wounds, he goes down. And then in the blue square, you see it popped up that static number. So what you can do is you can play around with it a little bit. You can make it so the players can see that. So the players don't even need to ask. If they click on who their target is, they know they've got to beat a 6. Or like if it's D&D, they got to beat a 16 or 17 or an 18 or whatever it is to hit that character. So you can help save yourself a little bit of time. If they remember to see it. They don't always do, but that's okay. But one thing I do want to point out, once you've set this up, this token is just on this page. All right, if I go to another page, and I will actually show you, and pull out Sheriff Bob, he doesn't have all that extra stuff on him. All right, I don't know why it's actually set up like that, but it is. So actually, I do know what, but it gets really complicated with advanced tokens and things like that. Things you don't need to worry about right now. But this one I've already set up how I want it, and this is how I want Sheriff Bob to be on every page. So you'll notice this little window down here is called Use Selected Token. So I'm going to save this version of the token into there, and hit save. Then when I do go to a different screen, or even on the same screen for that matter, say you have multiple monsters or something of the same kind, it's going to maintain those settings, and you see those transfer on your tokens over. So you go and set up all of your, your wild cards, your minions, your monsters, your hands out. You set out all of that, and then you're good to go. Now at this point, you can play the game. Some people, like in our current D&D game, we use dice in real life. So we're not even putting the stats and whatnot here is more just for letting the DM or the game master know what your stats are, so they can help plan, the adventures for your characters, make sure your challenges are appropriate and whatnot. And so this is just more of a reference sheet right here. You could also actually use it and actually use the built-in tools. I have mixed feelings about the built-in dice tool, and there's a reason why my group is currently using the live dice. So I leave that up to you. Our experiences have varied from good to there's days we swear the dice mechanics were jacked up. So I'll leave that to your discretion. But at this point, you really do have all the basics you need to not only set up a game, build the character sheet, build all of the things you need to put into the game, build the different pages with the different maps, and set up tokens for yourself using the token tool. These are all the basics you need to run the game. And it really doesn't have to get more complicated than that unless you really want it to. Now, Roll20 actually is quite versatile. You can do macros. There's all sorts of interesting, cool things you can do on the back end if you have a mind to learn how to do it with their interface. It can be difficult at times. Sometimes it's easy. There is a great community for Roll20. They do a really good job of providing you with all sorts of macros you can use and whatnot. But if all you do is looking for a basic tool to get your games online, to play online and have fun with your friends, real quick, especially under the current circumstances, folks are transitioning to online, real quick and whatnot. This is going to give you everything you need. All right. Well, with that, we're going to end the video, and I'm sure there'll be plenty of questions because I did bounce around a little bit, and I apologize for that. So feel free to comment below or message me in the Facebook groups. You know how to get a hold of me, and I'll talk to you guys later.